And getting the most out of both sometimes can be as simple as a new idea or an insightful conversation. Join attorney and author Rocco Kaza, along with realtor and podcaster Eric McKenna, for The Entrepreneur Life, Beaver County Radio's newest show. The Entrepreneur Life airs from 10:30 to 12:30 this and every Saturday morning. Listen on Beaver County Radio or watch the video stream on Facebook and YouTube. Don't just get busier, become happier, and ultimately wealthier. Tune in to The Entrepreneur Life Saturday starting at 10:30 on Beaver County Radio.
Beaver County Radio, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA. You're listening to 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge. Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas, a weekly segment dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romai to introduce today's program.
Good morning and welcome to the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. A trusted name in healthcare, the St. Barnabas Health System has become a visionary leader in providing compassionate, quality care. Founded in 1900 as a charitable nursing home, St. Barnabas now spans across 3 counties, and our home-like accented campuses are found in Allegheny, Butler, and Beaver counties. A well-appointed retirement living environment, personalized living assistance, and hands-on skilled care are found within the communities of St. Barnabas. Additionally, the St. Barnabas Medical Center offers the following health services that encompass a range of specialized doctors, dentistry, home health and home care, hospice care, and palliative care, as we remain focused on the needs of the community and our residents now and in the future. In building upon its heritage, St. Barnabas continues to reach those in need and lives out its mission through individual and institutional services that promote the health, education, and social needs of others. Men and women are invited to join us in the work of continuing Christian caring, healing, and teaching as we bear witness to our founder's reminder that God is able. In offering solutions and opportunities to enhance the daily lives of our residents, patients, and communities, St. Barnabas is excited to bring to you topics of interest to enlighten, entertain, and educate you. And today we will talk about the teamwork of a very large amount of people focused on enhancing the work-life stay balance of our region. And our guest is no stranger to this program. We have had her on many times, and this time she's just wearing a bit of a different hat. It's our first time talking with Bethany Williams in her role with the Southwest Pennsylvania Conference. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. Good to be back.
Good to see you once again. Yeah. I know you haven't gone far in terms of location because you're still a resident of Beaver Falls, but you've expanded your horizons. Welcome back, and tell us about being a part of all this. Tell us about your new position and what all that encompasses.
Yeah, so just about a couple of months ago, I took on the role of the new local government policy specialist for Southwest Pennsylvania for the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. So that's a mouthful, and I try not to repeat that often because it's a lot of words. But really what that means is I moved from being technical support for Beaver County municipalities to being technical support for the 11-county region of Southwest PA. And so, Ohio border over to Altoona, Butler County down to the West Virginia border. And so it's really just expanding the amount of communities I'm able to support, as well as providing support to Beaver County still. So that's been great.
So in other words, where most people try and stay as far away from government as possible, you just keep on getting deeper and deeper into it, don't you?
That's right. I was just talking with someone this morning about how my intention was never to be in government when I was going through my college degree. I thought I'd be in nonprofit services. But what I found is that local government is really the best way of serving your neighbor, and it's the most impactful way of doing that. And so while I'm in state government now, what I'm really doing is providing support to the people who are on the front lines of local government, the people who look outside their front door and see a pothole and are able to find the resources to fix that, or to fix up a park, or to cause economic development on their main street. I think that is the best way of serving the people that you live with and care for them in a way that's unique to local government.
But in a way, you were always a part of this, because although you were kind of like on the fringes of it as a community developer with Beaver Falls and COG in Beaver County, you had to work with these people that you are now working with.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't have to learn too many new names when I moved into working for the department, because they were the people that we consistently went to and said, hey, we have a problem, or hey, we have a need for funding. What programs do you have available? And so I participated in DCED programs as a Beaver Falls local official. I worked with them to provide data collection services, to get the resources to do that at COG. And so I'd already been working with the kind of grant funding that now I'm able to help distribute, which has been great. So we have a lot of programs that we touch in Beaver County in a number of the communities, for sure.
Bring our audience up to date, because many of them will know you through your work in Beaver Falls and through Beaver County on the projects that you initiated and helped guide along to fruition in many cases. What is, as you look at them now, just a couple months in your rearview mirror, what were the projects? What were the successes that and the accomplishments that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was emotional for me leaving Beaver Falls, because it was my first job out of college. I had really grown up working for the city and really learned what it meant to serve my neighbors. And so looking at the projects now that are really full steam, I'm really proud of what we've done over the last almost 10 years, before my transition, of getting a position set up within local government that was able to handle things like park projects right next to the library, which the second phase of that will commence this summer. And the Main Street redevelopment kind of stuff. The Innovation Hub that just received like $700,000 worth of funding from the state to implement that on the Main Street here in Beaver Falls. All of those projects are still running. They're still as hopeful as they were before. When I was there, they have hired a new community development director, Rochelle Burks, and so I'm really excited to work with her and get her onboarded with some of the programs that were left hanging out there. And so really, I think what I'm most excited about is continuing to participate in those projects just from a different angle. So while it felt like leaving Beaver County and leaving Beaver Falls, really I'm just a different tool in the toolbox now. I was really involved on the front lines, and now I'm learning the system to help support those projects in helping this region be more successful.
Okay. And many people, myself included, have somewhat of an understanding that when administrations change, and that could be on a local level or on the state level, federal level, that sometimes some of those projects can get lost in the shuffle. You're saying that's not happening here.
No, and even on a COG level with the work with public safety, that group is still meeting strong. They have a new interim executive director, Eric Bach, who has been involved in Doherty Township for a long time and is now I hope I'm saying that right. There's a number of those communities up there. And he's leading the charge with Amy Schmidhamer, who's the administrator there. And they've been doing great work. The local government conference will go on as scheduled this year in July, which will coincide with the Chamber's cruise down the river on the Gateway Clipper. So all of those things are still happening, and you just have new players involved that can help continue to push those forward. And I can stay involved and supportive from, an advisory standpoint and in, resources from a state level, which is great. So
the most visible one, especially for people in Beaver Falls or passing through Route 18 on Beaver Falls, north or south, is the library project, the park by the library. Where is that? And is it full speed ahead, or is everything contingent on the next grant cycle and whether or not they're successful in applying for those grants?
Those will be really great questions, obviously, for Mick and Rochelle as they're kicking off that project. But from everything that I know, the project's still moving full steam ahead. The designers are well involved, and they're just waiting for the weather to be reliable to get started, as far as I know. So, that project, the funding is there. The DCNR grant came forward for that to be completed. The county has supported it largely through their Office for Community Development as well. And so the funding's there. It's just a matter of having reliable weather to get started.
Reliable weather, Western Pennsylvania.
That's right. At least long enough that you can get some construction done.
For sure. Right. And I saw it before the election that Beaver Falls, that park project, the News Tribune building, was something that people were hopeful that Connor Lamb would be able to bring some funding and help with that project, about $1 million or something like that. But the election is over, and so are the hopes for the funding to come to that building.
Yeah, and so that did fall through. But what that did, and what you see in community projects all the time is getting community buy-in matters. Even from a funder's perspective, but also just from being able to complete a project like that. And what that process did for them was create a whole list of people who are supportive of the project, people who are advocating for the success of that project. And so anytime they go into a funding request moving forward, they have all of that to bring with them. So it wasn't lost effort. It's really just the foundation of saying the community wants this to happen. It's just a matter of finding a funding source that will help support that.
They were circulating petitions ahead of that. How important is it when you're lobbying for state grants and monies like that for the community buy-in?
Community buy-in matters. The way that the community or the applicant is able to write that into an application is really helpful because, a lot of the times, a grant funder, and I'm not speaking specifically for our department, but just in general, a grant funder would be looking for a project that will be successful after it's done. So that return on investment, whether you receive any sort of compensation back in a loan program or something like that, or it's a grant program, the return on investment is really that it's a success for the community. It gives a brighter future for that community in whatever area it's investing in. And so seeing that the community is invested before the project starts and is willing and able to push it forward after the project commences, it matters in a way that, is really hopeful in those grant applications. It's not the whole thing that you look at when a grant application comes in, but it's definitely really helpful to see that the community cares about what the person is applying for.
Is it helpful for this district to have Bethany Williams in that position? I know there are other people in your position around the state as well, and maybe you can't say that, but, if we're up against another district somewhere in central Pennsylvania, and you can give this one a little push, is that something that's possible?
Well, what I know is that I can advocate for Southwest PA from my angle. Where my lane really fits is with municipal government and supporting them. And I'll tell you, it's not typically, pitting communities against each other in the conversation. What it really is saying, will this grant or will this service help this community get to the next level? And so what we do a lot of the times is have a conversation about what can really push a community forward, which program would best support them for those kind of things. And so even if the answer is ultimately no, it's not, eliminating the support from the state in that way. And so really it's, the awareness at the state level is really helpful to know what's going on in the community, what they need. And then as, programs come down the pike, we're able to plug them in where it fits. And so, I'm glad to tell the Beaver County story at the state level, but I also, feel like, it's an asset for the state to be able to, inform me on the process and the resources available as well.
Bethany Williams is our guest. Can you explain the Beehive to people, and is it still moving forward?
Yeah, so the Beehive, the Beaver Valley Hub for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, is very much still moving forward. The Beaver County Corporation for Economic Development just applied and was successful for something called the RACP grant, which is basically a wish list item at the state level that the governor decides to put into the budget or not. And so they were selected and won, $700,000 worth of funding, which will match what the CED has already put into the project. Mm-hmm. And so that funding will make it possible to make it a really beautiful center. I've seen the designs for the building. It's stunning. Lou Velati, Jennifer Cushman, all of them are still pushing forward very much so, and we're excited to see that come to fruition.
To be located in Beaver Falls?
It is. It'll be right across the street, actually, right by the library. It'll be on the other side of the Chicken Shack in that building that used to have Adagio Health and those. Right. And so, they bought that building last year sometime and plan to do significant renovations.
Wow. Well, it happened in my lifetime.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think the hope is that it'll happen sometime this year or next, depending on timeline with construction.
And I know of the delay from a couple years ago when it was supposed to be the Angelus building, and then delays and costs and things like that kind of torpedoed that plan. But it's moved now into the center of the block. Yeah,
funding matters, and that's what really came down to was the ability to push forward the project with money. And so now that there's money in place, the project will move forward. It's great.
Okay, so all those different places will be in that building across the street.
Yeah, so the hope is that the Chamber of Commerce will also move over there. You'll have some other anchor tenants. There's a yoga studio who's intending to be in there as well. And so you'll have co-working space so entrepreneurs can meet there. You could go work out. You can, hang out and really have a brain hive there that you can really kind of collaborate with other entrepreneurs and have creative energy.
That's awesome because that means then that after a show, Eddie Crow can wind down.
That's right.
De-stress, while going over and doing some yoga.
That's exactly right. Once you guys are able to breathe after that.
The only thing was that Matt Durzik said if it's not goat yoga, he's not going.
Well, sure,
So,
Okay,
yeah, 'cause he's a big proponent of goat yoga.
Goats are not currently permitted in the city of Beaver Falls, but one could hope that you do a field trip to a farm someday, huh?
Chickens, how about chicken? Everybody has chickens nowadays. Are chickens permitted in these boroughs?
Not when I left. The chickens
No?
were still not permitted. There's always the potential to petition city council for those kind of things. But urban agriculture needs to be done well, and so a lot of education for the community to have to come around that. But it is, homesteading has becoming much more of a priority for folks these days, especially with the rising costs in the grocery store.
That's right.
It might be worth revisiting at some point.
This is the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romai, along with our guest, Bethany Williams, who is with the Southwest Pennsylvania Conference. We've got a lot more to talk about, so stay with us on the Best of Beaver County.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah. And she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700. Welcome back to the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Network. We're speaking with Bethany Williams, and it's always a pleasure to talk with Bethany. But now I'm just sensing an air of kind of more relaxation with you. Now, you've taken on a bigger role, but you seem, to me anyway, sitting here talking when you came in this morning and all, that you're a little more relaxed in this role. Is that true? Has anybody else said that to you?
People haven't said that to me, but I think what is true about this season of my life is that I invested heavily emotionally in a lot of the things that I was doing with the city and with COG and in Beaver County, and really taking this step back to look more broadly has just given me a chance to kind of breathe in between, and I think just as a personal level, our life as a family is a little bit crazy on occasion with our son with special needs. And so this has really been a chance for me to kind of look back on the last 10 years of living in Beaver County and just be really proud of what we've done. And so, while it was sad to walk away from some things, I'm also just really glad to have been a part of this last season of Beaver County. And so I think with that perspective, I've been able to just, be really grateful for what the last 10 years have done.
Yeah, and I think people that have worked with you in the past will say that you've been a godsend, a benefit to many of these organizations because you're level-headed, but forward-looking and able to keep everything on track. And that's a lot of balls to juggle in the air.
It is a lot of balls. And, when you're really in the trenches with people, doing the work of community, that relationship is really, at the forefront of making sure that you're caring for your neighbor as well. And what I always kind of described my job like was being that professional neighbor of I wake up every morning and think about, ways that I can help. And I think this is just a pivot in the way that I'm doing that to a broader scope, but really just saying, Beaver County has struggled to get resources for a long time. And so, and that their story is not unique in the region. And so being able to look at the system of resources and trying to learn that feels like the next way that I can be most helpful. And so, I think that's a place that I feel really confident that that's where my life is headed in that direction. But, still getting to be involved is that little piece of comfort that I'm not totally walking away from the things that I care about. So
in your future, you're not seeing commissioner, senator, congresswoman.
I have always said that elected officials' positions are better left up to people who want to do that. I really enjoy being in the background, setting people up for success. And so being in the administrative and supportive side of government, of really doing the work and handing it over to someone who's able to run it forward is really my skill set. I don't enjoy being on the stage or in the limelight. And so this position fits me well.
Speaking of helping people and municipalities become successful, the ARP grants or the funds, are they still available?
So the next round of funding is coming out soon, and so the state is working on those disbursements coming out, and so the communities and counties got their first tranche last year. They're getting the second tranche this year, and so I think what you'll see is that impacts start to kind of ramp back up again now that there will be more funding in bank accounts. So that's coming soon.
There are newly elected officials all over the state. Do people ever call on you, even in your former role or your present role, when they pulling their hair out and they're saying, I don't know what they want in this grant. I don't know what they're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting coming in right after a lot of turnover in local governments. So I'm starting into the state at a point where there's a lot of new people in their roles. And so whether it's elected officials or new borough managers or secretaries, a lot of the phone calls I get are really, I need to figure out where the files are, or I need to figure out how to kind of problem solve things that I've never done before. And so that was the piece of the work with COG that I loved the most, was really problem solving with people and making sure that they had what they needed to be successful. And so those phone calls come in often to the state level of saying, what are the requirements for these kind of things? We have a grant. We don't know what we were supposed to do with it because I'm new to the position. And so, sitting down, making sure that they have all the information needed and helping them to push things forward is a large part of this job.
How often have you heard, why do they need all this?
I'm not sure I've heard that one necessarily, but I do know that there's a lot of questions about, a lot of paper in municipalities, that we've kept paper files for forever. And one of the things that the state has funded in some of the programs is codification of ordinances, and Beaver Falls is actually working on that to get all of their ordinances online so that community members can look them up, and even the staff members in the office are able to do that. And so a lot of communities are starting to digitize things. Yeah. And that is a priority of the state, of making sure that you have the right technology, that you're able to use it, all those kind of things. And so I'm hopeful that digitization will help municipalities really have a sense of where the ordinances are and how to use them.
Are you telling me that in May of 2022 that there are local governments who are still boxing up files and taking them to the mushroom mines?
I can confirm that there are municipalities who have a lot of paper, and really, I mean, it's expensive to codify your ordinances, because some company needs to come in and go through each individual ordinance and put them up onto the internet, make sure they're correct and filed properly and all those kind of things. And so it's not a cheap process necessarily. And so having support for that is really helpful.
All right. Well, let's move on, because I want to incorporate your Southwest Pennsylvania Conference work. Since you've moved on to this position, tell us a little bit about the conference and tell us about some of the communities that are involved with it.
Yeah, so my region is all of the 11 counties, so it doesn't have any sort of membership or anything like that. It's really the state regional position for local government policy specialists. And so, it's everything from, the Allegheny-centric communities that we hear a lot about to the far reaches of the rural communities, the top end of Armstrong County, things like that, where you're heading really up into the state forests and areas like that. And so it's very diverse in the kinds of communities, the kinds of needs that they have. The populations are very different, and so their needs vary with that. And so it's been really interesting to see the problems that are the same, because they're really people problems, what it means to be in local government, how to get people on board with decisions that are being made, how to make sure decisions are well informed, how to do good planning in your community, things like that. But it's also, the problems of a city are very different than a very rural community that has 77 people in it. And so what I have really enjoyed about this job so far is that it's different every day, that the conversations are different, and then the problem solving is different.
So you may be working with Rich Fitzgerald one day, and then somebody out in Clarion County, PA.
Yeah, not quite. Clarion is not, but Armstrong, which borders Clarion, is. So, but we have local government policy specialists in the north and south and east and west, all of those. Yeah. And so, but we work closely together as a team to problem solve. So if we're bordering another region, we'll work alongside of them as well. But it is, So I could be, in the middle of, near Altoona, out in that area, or I could be out in, Beaver County.
Yeah. Can decisions that are made at your level at the Southwest Conference make or break what a community is trying to achieve or to progress another step forward?
I'd like to think that we are able to help support things move forward. I think, the department, what I like about the Department of Community and Economic Development is that we're not an enforcement agency, so we're not forcing folks to do things, but we're able to provide resources to help good initiatives move forward. And so, if there's something that a community really needs, or to prevent them from going into Act 47, or to, help them problem solve when there's emergencies in their municipality, there is a level of that as well. But what we're really hopeful about is that we can help set communities up for success so that they don't decline further, so that they're able to kind of right the ship, get, floating again, and then be able to support them forward into development in whatever capacity they want that to happen.
Act 47, Aliquippa. Beaver Falls, is that still
Beaver Falls is not an Act 47.
Home rule thing?
Home rule has moved forward, which is great. So the department is involved in some of that process, and the strategic management program is a large part of my job, which is a great program that helps come in and do a 5-year analysis of the financials, a projection forward of saying, if nothing changes, here's where you'll be in 5 years. And so then provides recommendations that you can get funding from the department, which is great, to help implement things that would help prevent things like that from happening. So Beaver Falls, the way that they ended up with home rule was that they went through the stamp program, and then the recommendation was to pursue home rule. They went through that. It was voted through by the constituency, and now they're in that process of implementation at this phase. And so that'll happen in a number of communities. And so you'll see that pop up for Act 47 communities. You'll see it because it's really that ability to right the financial ship. Through.
And it seemed like nobody quite understood what was going on. When you say to right the financial ship, are we spending too much money? Is that why we're in this position? And if we continue that way, how are we ever going to get our heads above water? But we don't want the state dictating what we do and how we spend money.
Yeah, that could be some of the question is, are we overspending in departments? Some of the things that they look at are we duplicating efforts by not using technology in certain spaces? Are we, are we not funding our pension, and why not? And some of the mechanisms that could help you get to that place. And so really, it's taking a full, broad look at the finances of the community and figuring out, where the gaps are, where things could be done better, and those recommendations that come out of that stamp report really help you project forward where you need to go in order to be more stable. And so we like to see communities go into that program specifically for avoiding Act 47 if you're in that position where you're nervous about it, or even just the communities that say, we've never done a 5-year projection. We don't know what the next 5 years look like. To have a consultant come in and be able to do that for a community. I mean, can you imagine a business if they didn't look forward a couple of years to figure out what decisions they needed to make? You're really doing that for municipalities. And Pennsylvania is really unique in that where we're really one of the few states that provides a program that helps you project forward, and so for municipalities specifically. And so we're really proud of that program.
Did you learn all this stuff at Geneva?
I learned.
There's a lot in there that you're spewing out here.
I learned a lot about being. I keep going back to being a neighbor, but really, my education at Geneva was really about being able to learn and continue to learn through your whole life. And I think the foundation of knowing sociology and economics and business, which was kind of how I mashed all of the things together to end up with community development, has set up really a foundation for saying, what does it mean for a community to be healthy? And so the on-the-ground work in Beaver County for the last almost 10 years, moving into the state level, it's really just kind of building on each other. And I'm grateful for the continued education that I'm getting at this role.
Have you ever walked away at the end of the day and just said, they just don't get it, they don't understand, they just won't help themselves?
I think in those kind of circumstances where I land is I'm wondering what's holding people back. And in some ways what we learned here in Beaver Falls, what Mick has hanging up on his wall as a city manager is hope dictates effort. And so what we learned in Beaver Falls was that if people didn't have hope in the future of the community, they wouldn't work towards it. And so developing a hope and a bright future was a keystone of what we tried to do when I was with the city. And I see that across the region of, the loss of so much back when the industry fell, of the steel industry, that lost hope, and that was the biggest loss that we had in this region. Yeah. And that's not a unique story to Beaver County. Beaver County has a unique version of it, but Southwest PA faces that loss of hope in a lot of ways. And so, when people really seem stymied by the problems in their communities, really my question is like, what are they focused on that's taking away from the effort that they're putting forward to taking steps to get out of it?
And are we focused in the right direction? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I am. I really am. And I think that there is a bright future for this region, especially, being able to say that we're going to do things differently, moving forward, because what we've been doing maybe hasn't worked, but there are pieces of it that we want to preserve. We're getting better at articulating what we want to keep in our communities and what we're aiming towards. And so the better that we can do with that, the more that agencies like the one I'm working with now are able to support that, because when you can articulate clearly what you hope for your future, then people are willing to buy into that, whether it's a public agency like the state or if it's private agencies who will come in and invest as businesses. That matters if you can articulate your story and your vision.
You certainly have articulated your story well over the years, and I'm always optimistic after talking with you about such things. So congratulations on your new role. We hope that you'll continue to come back and see us.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
All right.
Thanks,
Bethany
Mike.
Williams has been our guest. Thank you for listening, and please join us again next time. I'm Mike Romai, and this has been the Best of Beaver County Radio Network. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to